Shalom Israel, Brother Malak back with a lesson, a biblical lesson to be exact. And just seen a couple of videos on the UFOs, UAPs, and these flying metallic objects. And it kind of sparked my spirit to go back into a lesson we servants, apostles, prophets, etc., brothers, sisters go into, mainly the brothers, but it's about the chariots of Yahweh, these spiritual vehicles. And who else is it that's up there? It's Esau, it's Edom, inside the jets and these high altitudes within the air, and they're catching these metallic flying objects, these unidentified objects they keep running into, they keep seeing. But the scrolls, the ancient scrolls, tell us of these things, and the great one, he's supposed to be I'm not going to say suppose, Salakia, let's eradicate that. The scrolls prophesied him coming back on a big one. The scrolls prophesied or states that he's going to be coming back on a big one. And I always get into this chapter because this chapter it's amazing. It's truly amazing. And this is from Ezra, which is Edris in the Bible. It says, "And it came to pass after 7 days, and I dreamed a dream by night. And lo, there arose a wind from the sea. And I beheld, and lo, that man waxed strong with the thousands of heaven." Who was that man that waxed strong? Hamashiach Yahawashi, or who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. When you look up the ancient Paleo-Hebrew, you will see the way his name is supposed to be said. The same thing with the Father. When you look up the ancient Hebrew, the ancient Paleo-Hebrew alphabet, it says, "And I behold, and lo, that man waxed strong with the thousands of heaven." Who is the thousands? Clearly, those are the angels, and maybe even the elect, the 144 that gets beamed up. It says, "And when he turned his countenance to look, all the things trembled that were seen under him. And whensoever the voice went out of his mouth, all they burned that heard his voice, like as the earth fell when it filleth the fire." This is why we tell you Israelites, man, get your spirit right, get your soul right. We're not perfect. Us servants, us prophets, us apostles, us evangelists, we're not perfect. We fight our flesh every day. We fight the flesh every day. We fight temptations. We fight things every day. We go through things in this life every day, just like the next Israelite man and woman, and even like the next heathen man and woman. But we were given the spirit of prophecy. We were given the spiritual gifts to dissect the scrolls and to warn you. We all had our salat, our ambitions and goals set in this life, but as the saying goes, tell God what you're going to do and sit back and laugh afterwards, because he's going to ultimately direct you to what he wants you to do. And I always said I was supposed to be, somewhere, being a musician or doing something musically. And I still can, you know. But I see that the calling is really prophesying. What is the spirit of prophecy? It is the testimony. It is the testimony of Yahawashi Mashiach. But going back, it says, and whensoever this voice went out of his mouth, all they burned that heard his voice, like as the earth felleth when it filleth the fire. And after this I beheld, and lo, here's the point. Nope, that's not the point yet. And after this I beheld, and lo, there was gathered together a multitude of men. And we know these multitude of men are the nations, the Gentile, the heathen nations, specifically the armies that are, these armies are going to be fighting one another during World War III. They're going to be fighting one another during World War III. And boom, in the midst of World War III, Hamashiach Yahawashi and the angels are going to basically infiltrate. It's going to be, it's like a movie. It's like a movie. It says, and after this I beheld, and lo, there was gathered together a multitude of men out of the number from the four winds of the heaven to subdue the man that came out of the sea. Here's the point. But I beheld, and lo, he had graved himself a great mountain and flew up upon it. But I would have seen the region or place whereout the hill was graven, and I could not. So Ezra is stating that this monstrositas, if I'm saying that right, this gigantic vehicle that this man is appearing on or flying on or hovering on is so huge that he could not understand or comprehend where it comes from. You know, it's that huge. Reading again, it says, 2 Ezra 13:6, but I beheld, and lo, he had graved himself a great mountain. And that's a chariot. We believe through the Spirit it's a mega chariot. You know, a mega UFO or mega UPA or UPO, if you will. The best example we can give you is the movie with Vivica Fox, Will Smith, and the other guy. I forget his name. He plays in the Jurassic Park movies. I forget his name, but Independence Day, how that huge unidentified object interfered with our airspace. This is what this scroll is prophesying. This is what Edris is stating here. It says, but reading again, verse 6 of chapter 13 of Edris. But I beheld, and lo, he had graven himself a great mountain, and flew up upon it. But I would have seen the region or place where out the hill was graven, and I could not. And after this I beheld, and lo, all they which were gathered together to subdue him. Like I said earlier, those are the nations. These are the Gentile nations, the heathen nations, even the Israelites. These Israelites that have basically, took up arms and became one with these armies. I gather, those that went to the Air Force, military, or Marines, or whatever you want to call it, man. They're going to be fighting Salakia. They're going to be fighting the Lord, the King himself, when he arrives. It says, but I would have seen the region or place whereout the hill was graven, and I could not. And after this I beheld, and lo, all they which were gathered together to subdue him. Who is the him? Yahawashi, Hamashiach, Yahawashi. And these devils know this. And I call them devils because devil means deceiver. That's it. They deceive everybody. But they know this. They know that whom the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, Christ Jesus, is coming back with a bunch of angels, specifically Michael, or Michael, but Michael in the Hebrew. And that's prophesied in Daniel 12:1. They know that the great return is coming, the second coming. What's more anticipated than the second coming? There's nothing on earth or in this existence that's more anticipated than the second coming of Yahawashi Hamashiach, or whom the world ignorantly calls Christ Jesus, and his angels. It says, reading on, it says, and after this I beheld, and lo, all they which were gathered together to subdue him were so afraid. So Yahawashi put it in their spirit to stand up and fight, and yet he put it in their spirit to be afraid. I mean, it's just like your comic book movie or your superhero movie, man. They're going to be fighting literally gods, because he's coming back as a god. This is why he states that when he comes back, I will not meet you as a man. If you can filter out that secret. It says, verse 10, it says, but only I saw the Salah. It says, but only I saw Salah. Verse 9, reading again, it says, and lo, as he saw the violence. Salah. Verse 8, over again, it says, and after this I beheld, and lo, all they which were gathered together to subdue him were so afraid, and yet did fight. And lo, as he saw the violence of the multitude that came, he neither lifted up his hand, nor held sword, nor any instrument of war. But only I saw that he sent out of his mouth as it had been a blast of fire, and out of his lips a flaming breath, and out of his tongue he cast out sparks and tempests. And they were all mixed together, the blast of fire, the flaming breath, and the great tempest. And I assume that that's like the concentrated fire, aka laser beams, aka fire, aka a lot of action going on and whatnot. Sparks and tempests and sparks and flaming breath. And this is how Edris is explaining all of this in that time, in that era, in that period. Salah. Verse 11 of chapter 13 of Edris, which is Ezra in the Bible. This is why we tell you the Apocrypha is canon. The Apocrypha is canon. It says, afterward I saw the same man come down from the mountain. So he comes down from this monstrosities or gigantic or enormous vehicle, and he basically sees the elect and whatnot. But the point is, man, the scrolls definitely prophesy him, and the old prophets that were then definitely states that he's coming back. And like I said, these devils in high places, these deceivers in high places, they know he's coming very, very soon. Very, very soon. Very soon. Let me get to a point. Revelation 6:14 through 17. And we always talk about Yahawashi HaMashiach, or whom the world calls Jesus Christ, because it's really about him and the elect and him. The elect fighting off all of the toxicity or toxicness to shape themselves into him, basically, because he's the blueprint, fighting the flesh, fighting temptation, being a better man, even to the women, being a better woman, being that elect woman, being a better spirit, fighting the lust of the world, basically doing what Yahawashi HaMashiach did when he came down here. That's the elect job. That's their job, basically. Revelation 6:14 on down, it says, "And the heavens departed as a scroll when it is rolled together, and every mountain and land were moved out of their places, and the kings of the earth," this is all your top fake authorities, because when you know the scrolls, you know that these people they're Gentiles. The real authority is Yahweh, whom the world calls God, and Yahawashi, whom the world calls Jesus, and the Israelites, whom the world calls Negroes, Latinos, Native Indians. It says, "In the kings of the earth and the great men," Salah, Revelation 6:14 from the top. It says, "And the heavens departed as a scroll when it is rolled together, and every mountain and island were moved out of their places, and the kings of the earth and the great men and the rich men." This is why your power, your status, your money, none of it matters, especially in that day. Especially in that day. It says, "And the kings of the earth and the great men and the rich men and the chief captains and the mighty men and every bondman and every free man hid themselves in the dens and in the rocks of the mountains, and said to the mountains and rocks, Fall on us and hide us from the face of him that sits on the throne," and that is Yahweh, the Ancient of Days, and from the wrath of the Lamb. And that is that man that waxed bold, or that man that waxed strong in 2nd Esdras 13. Yahawashi HaMashiach, whom the world ignorantly calls Christ Jesus, or Jesus Christ. Yahawashi in the ancient Paleo Hebrew, because he was a Hebrew. Revelations 5:5 tells you he was a Hebrew Israelite from the tribe of Judah, Yahawadah, which is where you Negroes, you so-called blacks, that is the tribe you stem from. That is your root. We are the roots of David. We are the root of David. These are mysteries, secrets and mysteries and things that common folk don't get, because they wasn't given the spirit to filter out these puzzles and these secrets within these scrolls. But your so-called higher ups, your so-called authorities, your so-called whatever they want to be called, they know who the Negroes, Latinos, and Native Indians are. They know that so-called God, so-called Jesus, so-called angels are all black and brown, bronze individuals. They look like the people, the chosen people of the earth. And they know that the one they call Jesus Christ, Hamashiach, Yahawashi, is coming back very, very, very soon. Very soon. What's more anticipated than the second coming? And with that, I want to say, Call Halayim La, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahawashi, Bahashem, Rakah, Kadash.